Hello, SquirrelTribe 2.0. So we're doing something a little different today. As you can tell, we are outside because it feels nice. It's not raining. It's kind of sunny. There's not a ton of people around me, and that makes me feel good. Inside, though, the man is doing some work and editing. The kid is having a snack because we have plans later on this afternoon or evening. But I still want to see you guys, so I decided to come out here. But I wanted to talk about something, I guess, a little not funny, even though technically I think a lot of times over here it's kind of funny, or the way things go ends up having a little comedic humor to it. Even if it's not intended, it just kind of goes that way. It's how my brain works. Try to find comedy in everything. I think it's like a old school coping mechanism maybe, but either way, you guys know I have weird anxiety. I didn't have it, I don't think, as much as a kid or even as a teenager, but it feels like the older I get, the more anxiety like really kicks in. I feel like I hold myself back a lot because I could do a lot more if I wasn't so worried. I don't know if worried or scared is the right word here, of being in the public eye. Sounds real stupid given the fact that I have YouTube channels and I'm technically in the public eye, but I don't like in real life, like real time, people looking at me while I do stuff. It gives me massive anxiety, and I feel panic attacks, like the racing heart, the hard to breathe, the sweaty palms, all that kind of stuff. I feel it happen, right? And so I generally, if I don't record in the apartment or on the balcony or in my car, I don't record at all. And even here on the balcony, I still have a high level of anxiety because at any point in time, people could walk by, people could drive by, they could go out on their balconies and see what I'm doing. And it gives me, I don't even know how to explain it. If you don't have anxiety, you don't know what it feels like, but it's this really heavy feeling on your chest, I would say. But the reason I'm bringing, so my phone randomly just quit recording after 1 minute and 51 seconds. So here we are. But the reason I bring this up, the whole anxiety thing, the man and I actually had a couple hours to ourselves earlier today outside of recording for YouTube. We're doing other work things, and before we had to pick up the kid from school, and we went to a shopping center because I decided, if you guys watched the live stream on Mimosa Monday yesterday, my sexy librarian Tiphany glasses that I got that were making me feel like I was in a fishbowl every time I put them on, I took them back to Lynn's Crafters today. And I really didn't want to. Like, I absolutely love those glasses, but I took them back to Lynn's Crafters today. And the lady at Lynn's Crafters, the assistant manager there, she was like, listen, you don't have to return them, or we don't have to exchange them. Maybe there's something wrong with the lenses. Let us try again and make sure there's nothing wrong with them. So she took the lenses out. They're actually going to redo the glasses completely and then send them back to me. And if for some reason, once I get them back, she says probably December 22nd or 23rd, if for some reason I still feel like I'm in a fishbowl, or it doesn't feel good, or I don't like them, I can either exchange them for something totally different, or I can return them and get all my money back. So personally, I'm a big fan of Lynn's Crafters. Everybody has their own opinions on, you know, buying online or whatever else. I'd like to try, there's another brand, I can't think of the name right now, but Shelby Church uses them a lot, and I cannot think of the brand to save my life right now, but I want to try them. I've done Pearl Vision stuff before. I didn't like Pearl Vision that much when I was younger because they never felt like they got my prescription right, but none of that's the point. So I took my glasses back to Lynn's Crafters, and once we were done there, we had a little bit of time to kill. So we went into a place that we go a lot that has a bunch of different like restaurants and stuff in it. And one of our friends, they own a restaurant inside this place. It's kind of like, imagine food trucks, but inside a closed-in place, like a food hall kind of thing, right? So we go in there, and 4 of the businesses have already closed and they're done. And the place didn't even open until February or March. But a lot of these places signed 6-month leases to get started. And then after the 6 months was done, it was going to be up to them if they wanted to renew it, whatever the cost was, or if the food hall itself wanted to renew them or not. 4 of the places have already closed down. And that is not a good sign if after 6 months, these places have already closed down. But the whole reason I was thinking of anxiety is because one of our favorite places in there, the lady who owns it or runs it, she mentioned that, you know, she gets anxiety when it comes to those kind of things because like the customer service and things like that, because in where they are, it costs so much money to be there, but it's still cheaper than trying to have like a brick and mortar kind of store, right? Especially for if you're a mom and pop kind of business or a mom and pop restaurant, if you're not some big chain or whatever. it's much easier to be in a kind of cafeteria style kind of place, or like a strip mall-ish kind of thing. Like, I don't know how to really explain it to you guys, but I'm trying here. But the anxiety behind it all is, if people aren't coming in and shopping, they could at some point end up having to say, listen, we can't afford to renew, we have to close as well. And I don't think a lot of people realize, the man and I were talking about it earlier, that this is, I know, normally like a main channel SquirrelTribe conversation, but I wanted to talk to you guys about this because I think it's like really important, right? So when we go out to eat, or we go shopping, we go places, we try not to go to too many chain locations. Like where we live, of course, there's the chains. There's, you know, you got Chick-fil-A, which we will go to Chick-fil-A every once in a while because it's Chick-fil-A and I do like the chicken sandwiches. But we don't go to like Longhorn and Outback and Applebee's and things like that. If we want to go out to eat, we'll go to a local restaurant, because here's the thing. I would much rather support small businesses and local businesses than the big chain restaurants. And a lot of people, I think, don't take into consideration the massive difference between a local restaurant and a chain restaurant. So I'm just going to explain it to you guys, not saying that you don't know, but in case you're not fully aware. So let's think about it like this. If you have a small restaurant, you have no net really, and nobody to fall back on, and nobody to kind of hold your hand or kind of boost everything for you during hard times, right? Whereas if you're a chain restaurant, when things are slow, there's still all the other restaurants in the chain that can basically be your safety net, your safe place. Now, if it's a franchise, that's kind of different. Like Chick-fil-A is a franchise and other places are franchises, but like Longhorn and Olive Garden and places like that, they're all owned by this company called Darden. They're based out of Orlando, Florida. They own all of them. They're not franchises or anything like that. So when you have these locations that you go into a chain restaurant and you're like, all right, it's $16 for a steak. You're like, man, that's a great deal. Then you go to a local restaurant and they're like, it's $30 for a steak. It makes it much harder for you to want to pick that local restaurant and pay that $30 when you can go to this chain and get it for $16. But the difference is that chain restaurant, they are able to give you that lower cost because they have so many other places that are buying products, so many other places that are selling, even if this one isn't selling. So they're able to kind of basically put it all in a pot and make sure everything is green at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month or the year, as opposed to red. Whereas these local places, they have to charge more. They're not getting the same options of prices from their manufacturers, from their vendors. They don't have that safety net of, if they have a slow day here or a slow week or a slow month, at least this store over here did well. And you kind of combine it in, what's the word? Y'all, what's the word? My brain is not braining. I need more tea. What's the word? Average it out. They don't have the ability to average it out. It is what it is. And so where we live, it's a very touristy spot. And of course the chains still do well no matter what. But because they have that safety net. So in, you know, let's say November, December, January, when it's colder and people aren't really coming here as much, they don't have to do as much business because they've either done enough in the summer, or because they have all the other restaurants next town over, next town over, next town over, next state over, to kind of fluff them up, if you will. Whereas our local places, we see them closing a year after they've started, 2 years after they started, maybe 3 years after they started. And it sucks. All these local people and these local businesses, these small mom and pop places that are closing down because they don't have the ability to kind of give that lower price to the customers, because they don't get the ability to buy at that lower price because they can't buy in bulk like these larger places can. It sucks watching them go out of business, and you see these empty storefronts. You see your friends who had a business and then had to close it. Our friends who had the barbecue place, a year and a half in, they had to close down because they could not get the same foot traffic that a Longhorn or an Outback or an Olive Garden could, because a lot of people don't. The man and I were talking about it earlier, and I was trying to explain to him, or trying to figure out how to word it. A lot of people trust, I want to say trust, but that's not even the right word, but they are so used to the familiar. You see the golden arches, you know that's McDonald's. You see that little weird looking hat thing, you know that's Arby's. You see the bell, you know it's Taco Bell. You see the girl with the red pigtails, you know it's Wendy's. But when you see this one-off place, you don't know what it is. You don't have that immediate thought of, I know this is good. I've been there before. My friends like this place. It has good reviews. You don't know any of that, and so you bypass it. And then more and more you see all these little places closing down, these mom and pop shops and these smaller restaurants and things like that. And where we are, the ones that make it are the ones that are in the harbor, obviously, because, you know, we're in Florida. So the ones that are right on the water, even if they absolutely sucked, if their food was trash and the service was, you know, absolute trash, they would still do well because of their location. They're going to win no matter what. But these other places that are small and people don't know about them, it sucks watching them close up and go away, because that's people's dreams and money that are just poof, be gone. And so the whole reason I'm talking about anxiety in the beginning is I would like to do so much more. Like, I want to do things. I want to have my own brick and mortar place. I want to have my own brick and mortar store. We've had our own company for the longest, but I want to have my own brick and mortar location with my own store front. But it's terrifying. It gives me anxiety, because you have to realize that if you're not known, it makes it much harder to get started, especially without somebody with a ton of money pumping into your business, right? So when you see a Wendy's and a McDonald's and a Taco Bell and things like that, of course they're going to do well, because they have a ton of money behind them. There's not really as much anxiety there, because they're a known name. It's easy for them to go out and do whatever, and people are just going to flock there. The second you hear a new Starbucks is opening, people are looking for the date it's going to open so they can be the first one in line to go get their pumpkin spice latte or their caramel brulee latte or whatever season it happens to be. Whereas if a new mom and pop place opens up, a small shop or whatever, there's not normally a line, because people don't know what it is. And the amount of money that is spent on marketing to try to get your name out there, try to get your voice out there, try to get your vision out there, and people understand who you are, what you are, whatever, that can bankrupt small businesses before they even have a chance to take off. And y'all, it is terrifying. It is anxiety inducing like nobody's business. So the man and I, our business that we had in Georgia, we were able to do that because people knew who we were from our previous corporate America lives. We were able to start a business of our own because we already knew people in the game. So we had like a foot in the door. But for other people who, let's say you wanted to go out tomorrow and start your own restaurant because you love to cook at home. Let's say you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, or you've taken culinary classes or whatever else, and you know you can cook really well. Your family loves your stuff. And so you decide you want to open your own business, whether it's a food truck or a brick and mortar location, or even an online thing where they can order food and you ship it, whatever. It's terrifying. It's anxiety inducing because nobody knows who you are. You have to trust that you've done enough work, that you have enough knowledge, that people are going to like what they see, because visually, that's what matters the most. I tell the man all the time, like, you know, I feel like I could go farther on YouTube if I was willing to do more appearance wise, like put on makeup and wear certain things and do certain things, but I'm not. And that's not an anxiety thing. That's just not how I want to get to where I want to be. But you have to realize that the whole package really does come into play with success versus failure. Word of mouth, in my opinion, is the best thing out there. So when you guys, you guys tell me all the time that you share the videos with your friends or your family that you think would like whatever it is I talk about, or my personality or whatever else. And that to me means way more than anything under the sun. It means more to me than YouTube pushing me out, because YouTube pushing me out, there's no thought or feeling behind it. So when you guys do it, it means everything to me. Just FYI, thank you. I love you guys. But the whole anxiety thing, our friend who has this business in this location where these places are falling like flies, like they are dropping, they're not able to make it because they have to charge so much because of where they are. It sucks. And it's like, well, if you can't make it here, do you have a backup plan? Do you have somewhere else to go? Because it's terrifying to know that you've invested all this time and all this money into something, and at the blink of an eye, it can be taken away, whether it's because of whatever's happening in the world, whether it's another shut everything down, or it's because, you know, inflation, or it's because of lack of foot traffic because nobody can afford to go out, or it's because you're a one-off and you have to charge so much more than the place right next door that's a known chain. So you don't have a line, but you've got people willing to stand at this other place for an hour and wait for a table while all your tables are open, and you're like, if you would just give me a chance, I have better food, I have better service. Yes, the prices might be a little bit more, but would you rather pay $5 more and not wait an hour? Like, you got to think about those things. So most random video, I say that every time it's a random video. All my videos over here are most random videos, but it made me really think about it, especially over the holidays, where, you know, you may be getting with your family and your friends. You're like, hey, let's go out and have a meal. I don't want to cook tonight. Let's go have a drink. Let's whatever. This is me imploring you to maybe skirt the chains that you know of, the chain locations you would normally go to, and look for that place that might be that hole in the wall, or that mom and pop place, that one off that really could literally mean their livelihood or not if you were to go there and have a drink with your girlfriends, or a meal with your spouse, or a sit down with your family. So that's just random. There's so many people out there dealing with anxiety, and all of us, I think, are dealing with it differently and experiencing it for different reasons. My friend is experiencing anxiety from the fact that she doesn't know if in 6 months they'll still be in business. I experience anxiety with, I don't like eyes on me. Like right now, there's been 3 or 4 people that walk by, and I can literally feel my hands start to sweat, my armpits start to sweat, my body temperature feels like it goes up, and I feel myself talk a little bit softer and then also a little bit faster in those moments. It's so weird what your mind can do to you based off of how you perceive things. Because like the man says all the time, he's like, you have to remember, nobody's paying attention to what you're doing out there. And even if they are, who cares? Who cares? And that's where it's hard for me. That's where my anxiety goes. I hear you, but I care. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's like an only child thing, if it's because my dad didn't want me, if it's because, like, who knows why I am the way I am. All I know is that it feels like as I get older, anxiety kicks in more. And honestly, it probably has a lot to do with YouTube. I was much more confident in myself and my abilities before I started a YouTube channel, because people don't talk to you in real life, face to face, the way they do behind a keyboard on a social media platform. There's days where it's like, man, I'm surprised I'm not an alcoholic. I'm surprised I don't do drugs. I'm surprised I'm not, eating to just like deal with my emotions and weigh 600 pounds, because there's so much that goes on here that y'all would never see and never understand. But I wouldn't really want to put that on you anyway. It's not something that you want to do to the people that you love. And I love you guys. So I wouldn't ever want to like put all that on your shoulders. But I can tell you right now that I do this because I love y'all. Because if it wasn't for out of love, I wouldn't be here. Because sometimes this platform in itself is enough to break a person, just plain and simple. And maybe that's where the anxiety comes in, knowing that every time I hit record and I start talking and then I put it up on the internet, that there's going to be people who come out and literally tell me, you're so stupid, you should just kill yourself, or I can't believe you think anybody cares what you have to say, or you're so ugly, I'm surprised your husband stays with you, or I get all kinds of comments that even though I know they're dumb and I know they're not true and I know they're wrong, some part of my brain thinks that I deserve those comments. And it sucks thinking like that, right? And especially as a woman and as a mother who's trying to teach her daughter to, embrace everything about herself and ignore everybody around her who has anything negative to say to her. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. It's one of those kind of things, because I'm telling her how she is perfect, because she's perfect. There's nothing wrong with her. She is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And anybody who can't see that, they're idiots, right? But then at the same time, I don't take my own advice and go, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine the way I am. And then I read a comment and it messes with me, and I think to myself, well, maybe you should go get your teeth fixed. Maybe you should put on more makeup. Maybe you should dye your hair and get rid of the gray. Like, it's a really weird place to be in. Maybe it's hormones. Maybe it's because perimenopause is kicking in. Maybe it's because I'm about to turn 42 in literally a little over a month. I don't know what it is, but all I know is that it feels like the older I get, the more I deal with anxiety and panic attacks. Not full attacks, but I can feel when they're coming on, and it's slightly terrifying. It's a really weird situation to be in. And for those of you who deal with it also, how do you deal with it? Like, I would love your comments on that. And if you guys want to have these conversations outside of this platform, Patreon's there. It is free to be over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel and whatever, you can do that. If not, there's no harm, no foul. We can still have these conversations here if you're willing to leave the words in the comment section where anybody can read them. So just FYI. But I appreciate you all immensely. Just so you know, it helps me to have you to talk to. You are my walking, talking diary / journal / therapist, if you will. And I appreciate you all immensely for it. Even the ones who cause the anxiety, I still appreciate you, because it gives me something to think about. It gives me a reason to look inside or reflect or whatever else. And then it also gives me reason to believe that unfortunately there are bad people out there who just feel better shitting on everybody else because of how unhappy they are, as opposed to figuring out how to make themselves happy so they wouldn't need to shit on anybody. So there's that. Listen, the whole takeaway of this, I guess, is try not to be anxious or figure out how to deal with anxiety. I'm still working on it on a daily basis. And then support your local places, whether it is a restaurant, whether it is a storefront, whether it is a hair salon, a nail salon, just random things. If it's local and not a chain and they are good people, try to support them as much as you can if you have the ability, because again, generally speaking, unfortunately, smaller mom and pop places do cost a little bit more, but it is, in my opinion, helping our neighbors, our friends, our community stay afloat, as opposed to feeding the, the corporations and stuff like that. So it's like a little mix of a Squirrel Tribe plus a Squirrel Tribe 2.0 happening right here. I appreciate you all immensely. It's time for me to go inside and cook dinner for the man and the child. That's about it. Well, although she just had a snack, so she's probably not going to eat anything. But then we have somewhere else we have to be in about, I don't have a watch on, probably about 30 minutes though. So got to cook real quick. I love you all very much, and I will see you again tomorrow for a little hump day action, if you will. Okay. Y'all have a good night. Love you. Bye.